Today we have Michael Jasanoff and Brian Kramer with Everbridge to discuss staying ahead of physical digital threats and IT disruptions. Welcome.
Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks for having us. It's a pleasure to be here. Just do a couple of introductions. So again, I'm Michael Jasanoff, the channel manager that's supporting you guys, and I have my sales engineer, Brian Kramer. We're both based in Texas, and it's a pleasure to talk to you guys today, and we appreciate the opportunity to present Everbridge on that. So, Brian, if you want to make a real quick introduction, and I'll just kind of go into a few slides.
Yeah, so I'm Brian Kramer. I'm a sales engineer here over at Everbridge. Been here about 4 years, based out of Houston, Texas. Prior to Everbridge, I was a decade-long customer, so I got a pretty extensive knowledge of industry and Everbridge use. So glad to help out and train you guys and get you all spun up.
Thank you, Brian. So I'm going to go through just a couple of slides. I'm not going to inundate you with a lot of slides, and then I'll turn that over. And then we want to do a higher overview of the platform. I think it's very helpful to actually see what we're talking about, right? Everybody talks about kind of a single pane of glass and how to monitor and how to have visibility and things like that. So Everbridge, really what we do is we're a mass notification business continuity solution. We've been around we were actually born out of the 9/11 tragedy from a mass notification posture, and we have grown organically through acquisition. And we have around 7,000 global customers, about 2,000 employees. And we were a public and now we're a private company. And so really what I want to do is I just want to touch on what's important for sellers, right? What is important for them to understand who Everbridge, kind of what the overview value is, how to position us, and then mostly how do we sell, right? How does that work? And how do we make it easy for you from an engagement posture and what we need to do in order to kind of move things and generate some opportunity. So that's what I'm going to cover today a little bit. So really what we do is we just, as the tagline is, right, being from a resilient world, there are a lot of reasons why customers partner with us, right? And so what we are really about is staying ahead of physical and digital threats. And that is a very broad and wide subject. There are a lot of conversations, whether it's, active shooter, things that are happening in the news, those LA wildfires. There's a lot of things that are coming up that businesses of all size, really, whether that you got a .gov behind it, you got a .sled behind it, or a .com behind it, organizations are looking for business continuity solutions. So we fit that mold. We've been doing this really longer than anybody else. And so it's not a commodity solution, fortunately. And it's probably also not a lot of subject matter that your competitors are having conversations about. So, it's allowing organizations to be agile, competitive, and profitable. And really what that means is it's being prepared for whatever that event is, responding, how do we respond, and then mitigate that, and how do we recover, right? So you have an incident, you got to figure out what we need to do in order to deal with that, and then how do we recover from that? So you really, it's earlier, you respond faster, and then you continuously improve in that. So we have a set of tools and a solution that will enable you to do exactly that. And Brian's going to illustrate that a little bit. But again, it's to prevent, to prepare, to respond, and recover. We all know that things are going to happen, right? But it's in order to have that, we mitigate that to impact. There's a lot of organizations out there that have no business continuity plans, none, right? And so you would be very surprised at the conversations that it's very manual based and paper based. And they really don't have any way of dealing and getting mass notification solutions out. You're not going to rely on your telephony system or your UCAS or your email. So it becomes very important how to have those conversations just on a higher level. And then from an engagement posture, I'll also explain that. So, you're planning on that from a preparation standpoint, which we provide those tools and the monitoring tools from a risk intelligence And the visualization, which Brian will go in, you'll actually be able to see a little bit of that. And again, we're going to do a very high overview. The alerting, right, to the right audience at the, instantaneously to let them know what event is being triggered or going on, incident management to respond to that. And then from a post perspective, right, an analysis and an improvement plan to execute should that happen again, or when that happens again, I should say. Right. So we have a couple of different types of solutions. There are, CEM, right, is what we refer to, as event management, right? So there are a couple different iterations of that depending upon how granular and how specific the customer. And I don't want to really even take up much of your time, but it's not a one size fits all. And a lot of customers may have grow into. And so there are opportunities for you to continue to enjoy that customer and enjoy continued revenue and enjoy those renewal opportunities that come about with that, right? It's kind of an evergreen clause with that. And again, it's about people, keeping people safe and organizations running. And there's a lot of different solutions that go into that, which I'm not even going to cover because I just want you guys to have an understanding and a basic overview. But when you start to look at critical events, what am I even talking about? What does that mean? It could be natural disaster, right? Active assailant, active shooter. That is unfortunately in the world that we live in, that is a very high prominent, whether it's corporate organizations that we saw last month with that New York City tragedy, or school shootings, things that we keep seeing in the news. Organizations, they want to be able to mitigate that, and they want to be able to have real-time information to protect their greatest assets, which is their employees. You have health and safety and severe weather. If you're on the coast, hurricanes, tornadoes, all of these things that affect it. At the end of the day, these affect employees and they affect how businesses run. So a lot of these organizations are having conversations around these. And so we can present our Everbridge 360 again to protect people and assets. I'm not going to go much too into travel protector, but we have different ways in which to protect sea level. We had the horrible incident where the United Healthcare CEO was assassinated. A lot of organizations are having about how to protect their sea levels or how to protect their senior leaderships. So we have the ability to be able to do that within our platform. And so when you go into that, if you sell a physical security solution, whatever that is, that's great conversations to have that tie into that, because we'll be able to tie into those physical assets and be able to give them greater visibility and utilization of those. And so, whether it's fire or perimeter intrusion, workplace safety, and physical access, we have the control center to keep your facilities secure. And so a lot of these topics that I'm mentioning are simply just having conversations around that. And we'll provide you a deck with that. We have business continuity solutions, right? So how do you mitigate supply chain disruption? How do you mitigate system failures and utility disruptions and severe weather? How do we have those conversations with customers to say there are things that you can do and processes to mitigate that in order when you're down or you have those disruptions that impacts business and the bottom line very quickly. Also brand image. If you're a website and you're exclusively selling that, you got big problems if you're down, right? So that's lost revenue. We also have what's called critical event management with a couple of different solutions, from a cyber posture or a system failure or deployment failure. So these are some of the business continuity solutions in addition to the mass notification that we have. So we start to kind of have some different discussions based upon what kind of pain points the customer may experience. The end of the day, really what I would just want to share is basically end-to-end resilience, whether it is the business continuity, mitigating that from a cyber posture or mitigating those things, and then visibility from a mass notification. We can really do the preparation, the risk monitoring, and the real-time alerting. So allowing you to have an incident response, really it says intelligent orchestration, but being able to have a solid plan in place from a digital posture to be able to execute on that. And adaptive communication and collaboration simply means to get the right message to that right audience. If, for example, If you are in Louisiana or Houston area and there's a really bad hurricane going on, you don't have to send that out to your employees in Phoenix and LA and Chicago. They don't really care. I mean, other than that, having hoping my colleagues are safe and okay, they don't need that messaging. So it's really being prepared and getting that right message out to your audience. And again, real-time dashboards allowing you to track it, to audit it, response analytics, and impact analysis. And again, it's that whole end-to-end resilience. So that's what I wanted to show you. Is just to understand when you're engaging with Everbridge, it's really about mass notification, business continuity. If you have a prospect or a customer and you start to have just very high level conversation about it, how do you engage me? Really, you just send me an email on that. We'll register that opportunity, and then I will get the appropriate AE or account executive to engage with you, and then you guys will do in a co-sell model. Really, we're going to do all the heavy lifting. We're going to do from a pre-sales perspective. We're going to do the pricing. We're going to be able to put all of this together from a demo and from a posture from a sales enablement and that cadence. So it's really going to be that co-sell model. We are not expecting or asking our partners to sell this autonomously. It is simply bringing an opportunity and having those discussions and having those conversations and moving and navigating along that cycle. So, one thing that I also did want to be notable, from a Forrester Wave on a critical event management, which a lot of people do pay attention to that. They really want to do business with somebody that is a leader. And we are, in that top right? So there are not, as you can see, there's a couple of other, contenders, but it's not a saturated market. And we win a lot of these opportunities when they are presented to us. So we have a very robust partner program, but we are not scorching and boiling the earth with partners. So there is a lot of room and for us to really enjoy, that co-sell model on that. So I'm going to really not continue to go through. I'm going to hand over. I want Brian, and I know we're limited on time, but I just want you guys to see some of the solution, to understand what that looks like a little bit, to conceptualize that. And again, the emphasis is if you have an opportunity with a customer that says, I want to talk about, we're concerned about active assailant or weather, or natural disasters or whatever those things are, we can have those conversations with you when you bring those opportunities to us.
All right, so this is that dashboard that Michael was talking about. This is what all of our customers would see regardless of what platform they get with us. And this would easily allow them to just come in and launch a communication, whether it's a front desk person, receptionist, it could be security personnel, it could be emergency management personnel, and that's when somebody that's actually sitting in a chair needs to send a notification. Majority of our customers use automation, whether that's triggers from access control systems, fire alarm systems, building automated systems, integrated IT systems, all the way down. I mean, even going as far as HR systems. We integrate with all of those the same. So what we could essentially do is come through and you can either send it this way. What some of our more robust and we'll say resilient customers tend to do is they'll have some sort of an operation center. And, that's my background. What I had behind me, that's literally Everbridge on the big screen from a decade ago. So we can come through and we can bring all of the things that you care about, whether that's the offices, the people, the travelers, no matter what you're looking at, you can say, hey, I've got all my stuff plotted on a map. Now I can start to say, hey, what are these risk events that are coming in? Everbridge processes, 52,000 different risk sources where it's, I believe 25,000 a day. Now that's obviously not going to pop up on your screen. What we do is we have, we're deploying new AI driven technology here soon. We have analysts, 70, 90, somewhere, around the world that sit in a chair and actually look at those. They'll see those different types of alerts, whether it's coming from police scanners or Twitter or, the news wires. and we see that those alerts are coming in, and then they're going to publish that as a risk event. Then what the platform does is it takes that overlap to where it's got the things that you care about and the things that you worry about are now going to overlap. And when it does, call it that Venn diagram in the middle, it's going to generate these alerts. Public service customers are without power. Again, if you don't have customers or, assets, buildings, people, travelers, customers, whatever, if it's not something that you worry about here, where you see I have one of my generic employee number 6493, your system would obviously have, Michael or Brian listed, but my dummy data in here shows that I have an asset here, so I could automatically send a notification to that person that just says, hey, there's a power outage. That may go farther to where if I have an asset there, if my building was there, or some of these things that are going on in other areas, we've got these alerts that there's a 2 alarm fire in an apartment in the area. If this may be one of my employees that have that, so I could send a notification to them um, automatically through the system. Otherwise, for the travel alerts, you have these kind of things that come through, and you'll see I have all these different kinds of dots. There may be these transportation ones where you have Tucson, reports that a train struck a person. Some of the other ones are travel related, may impact severe weather. You have reports of flooding in the area. Those different kinds of things will come in that protesters and civil unrest, you're going to see that there's, a heavily populated area. I may want to go and say, hey, there's a different type of an event going on. The system may send an alert that says, hey, there's a protest, avoid the area. I can then come in and say, hey, because of this, we may spin up a emergency response call or a employee assistance center to say, we have 200 employees that are impacted by this, potentially. And, what do we need to do? So think of it from the emergency management, the, emergency operations centers. I can go through and I can say, hey, this does, severely impact me. I now need to come through and say, hey, we need to come through and send a higher level alert to this. And then it may become where, because of there's the protests, all of these arrests, it may be getting out of control. I may have an office in that building where things are going on. I can then come through and say, hey, because of this, I want to go through and I want to activate my business continuity plan. I want to come through and, maybe I need to launch that critical event, which means I need to say, hey, there's a protest or bomb threat or, whatever the type thing is, here's, the whatever your specific template is for that. I can come through and, come to say, hey, I've got one here for protest and civil unrest. I'm going to use that. I need to do, we'll just do for demo, and I want to come through and say, hey, it's a civil unrest. I need to come through and say, hey, here's this, and I need to launch that. I'm going to start to come through and see all my business continuity plans, all the messaging that I need to send out, all the context that need to be had. I'm going to start looping in my affected assets. You're going to see here where I can take that to where here's all my list of things that I need to send out. So that run book, that playbook, the standard operating procedures, whatever your customers want to call it, I just got a notification here because of that demo. So this is one that I haven't quite built out, but I could say, hey, here's an event notification that if I put on my incident responder hat, I just got a notification that that event was activated. So I can now start to pay attention to my information that said, hey, there's some things. I've got a task that's already assigned. So I could literally just with the click of a single button and go through this process. So I see there's quite a few questions that popped in. I can start answering those. Primary decision maker for this product set. That's going to be an easy one. That could be anybody from chief security officer, chief risk officer, incident command, influencers. If somebody anonymous could, if somebody could expand on what the influencers are. Top verticals we should consider with Everbridge solution set. I'll let Michael go into the pricing. Top verticals, we are in healthcare, We are in energy utilities, oil and gas. We are in state, local, federal, funny shaped buildings in Washington D.C. We are in FindServe, tech. Every organization, we've got a slide that we can send that shows where we're at, like 47 of the major 50 airports in the United States, 5 of the 5 major consulting firms, tech companies. Um, can news alerts which impact business performance be sent? Yes. So we can go through any of these alerts that are coming through, can have in the back end a workflow that says based on timeline, severity, proximity, we can go through all of that. And just like the process where we were looking to do those types of notifications, we can configure if that's an automated one, if it always alert. Maybe it's something if I want all utility notifications to be sent out, regardless if it's us or not, or my company or my customer. We can configure that as well. How do employees get notifications? Excellent question. So in here we have the Everbridge mobile app that disappeared. It's on my screen. So this is going to be the Everbridge mobile app. This is available for Android, iOS, for mobile phones. This is actually a Windows based for Mac and Windows that can do full screen takeovers for emergency activations, like imminent threat to life. I can get a email notification for the. I'll look one. Here's one where I did a notification because a 933 911, we integrate with mass notification 911 systems. I received this earlier because somebody, if you know, we also sell Red Sky E911. So if somebody dials 911 in the building, I can get an email alert. I can get an SMS message. My iWatch goes off. I mean, we can publish to Teams. We can publish to social media. We can publish to communities. If you have state and local governments, we have community engagement that can literally reach out to any cell phone for iPause or for the emergency notifications, like what's driving Amber Alerts. That's a lot of the times if they're an Everbridge customer, we push those. So does your system interface? I'm scared. Sorry. Does your system interface with network monitoring knock? Our X Matters does. This system can. So we have some fusion centers per se that will put this up. Otherwise, we could notify from an Everbridge standpoint that the risk is there to the knock, that these are the assets that are impacted. Otherwise, we could definitely integrate the X Matters solution to bring in risk alerts. So yes and yes, it just depends on what the problem they're trying to solve. So we are seeing that a lot of physical security and fusion centers are putting this platform specifically in their knocks because we can also bring cyber alerts into this for them to triage and go through that process. So I hope we're getting all your questions answered. We're kind of doing rapid fire. Michael will go through pricing towards the last minute or two. I already covered the verticals, so if there's no other tech or product questions, Michael, I think I'll
Yeah,
keep
that'd be
sharing,
great.
but yeah, go ahead and take over pricing.
No, and first of all, thank you, Brian, and thank you for all the questions. So
Yeah.
what I want to specify is, from a vertical posture, it's really any vertical. It's any organization or any entity that really wants to have this type of platform for the utilization for a lot of different variables that brings them to have those discussions. And again, it's normally going to start with, director or C-level from executing on the opportunity, right? And these are, we cater into our SMB, which is really up to 2,500 employees, maybe another person's purview of a medium or larger enterprise. So I say that because we span. So, if it's an organization that has 1,000 employees or 800 employees, or if it's an organization that has 20,000 or better employees. So we can cater to really whatever type of entity that is, whatever vertical that they're in. We just have, as Brian alluded to, we have some that are just much more prevalent because of the fact that they utilize the solution a little bit more granularly into their environment, all the way up to very large enterprise or any type of institution, SLED, higher ed. All of those have a lot of discussions around active assailant and how to keep buildings safe and secure from that. So again, I know we have 2 minutes left, but it would really just, when you have an opportunity and there is something, send me an email and say, hey, I may have an opportunity. Customer wants some information on that. There is a lot of information. It's probably literally, and I don't say this because I'm biased, I work here. On our website, you can pull down case studies to very specific. You can look at use cases. There's a lot of information to which there can be things sent to a prospect. But if you said, hey, I need some information, this customer wants to just have a little bit of a preview, I could send you the correct link. That is a very easy thing rather than just sending PDFs and things like that. We can also, individual people, we can get you in our partner portal to be able to register opportunities. You can send them to me to register that. I just need to know basically, where they're located, who they are, and then the physical geography of that, so I can get the right AE to engage with you guys, and we will go off and sell that together. And hopefully, we can continue to do that in perpetuity. I know we're at the top of the hour, and I really want to thank everybody for your attendance and participation today, and have the opportunity to that. And if you have any questions, please email me or let me know. And I am happy to field any questions, and work with you guys in every capacity that we can.